Life certainly brings plenty of surprises, doesn't it? Greetings, my dear lieges. Today I bring you an introduction to a companion series to Legend commentaries, Kami's Dissections. These will be commentaries disconnected from the main storyline of that series, and feature me presenting as Kami rather than as Sonia. I believe I have kept you here for long enough. I'll let the intro card do the talking for now. Without further ado, allow me to elaborate further on what we'll be dissecting today. Shy96 is someone I have already covered alongside Kagura 101, back when she was known as Destroyer Shy. On July 5th of 2024, she released a tribe involving herself and fellow SEC members User 1 Campbell and Chinala Arts, who I'll be referring to as Audie from this point on. They covered Turn of the TV, Kagura 101, and ex-commentator Keyblade Master's try-up on Expert's video on Keyblade's commentary covering Sonic King, who was covering IGN's review of Sonic and the Black Knight. I will admit that this is merely an abridged version, and there are details I have purposefully left out. Those, however, will be saved for when they become relevant. With all that being said, let us proceed with the show.
So, normally I would have an intro skit here, but due to the severity of the video in question, I decided against it. Instead, I want to give a warning to the following. Mentioning of Keyblade Master, aka Kirito, aka that man. Slight mention of Paradox Philosopher. Harassment, mention of Cloak and Dagger. Yelling. If any of these are a trigger for you, I recommend checking out any other video. If you're okay with this, let's get this video started.
This is a general issue in regards to the video, but Shy speaks very quickly and with a generally quiet tone of voice. When you combine those aspects with her choice of voice filter, it leads to her not being the easiest to understand, and this won't even be the worst of it. By the way, while Shy claims the severity of the video meant she didn't wish to put in an intro skit, there actually was an intro skit within the original version of the video that Campbell edited and archived. It will not be the last time a contradiction like this will show up in this video, unfortunately. Normally, I'm not the type to get onto intro cards. Usually because there's not much to critique about them, unless it is a particularly poorly made intro. Now, visually, this is actually quite decent. The visuals sync up well to the song used for the most part, and all of the important information is conveyed without anything feeling like it's on screen for either too long or not long enough. While the transitions are a bit too much, I do understand that it was the first time Campbell was properly experimenting with CapCut, so I won't hold it against him. What I do take issue with, however, is the way the audio is balanced here. For reference, this is how it looks within my editor, with Shy's pre-video disclaimer as a point of comparison. Notice the red lines atop the usual blue audio waves? That signifies that the audio is peaking, or in other terms, it is way too loud. The fact that Shy didn't fix this issue while finishing the video is astounding to me, since she could have easily turned down the audio within her editor, as it is a common feature within editing software from what I've experienced. In fact, the audio balancing seems to be a general issue in quite a bit of the video. It's not quite as bad as the intro card was, but for everyone's sake, I'll be fixing this myself.
You know, in my needle for every time I was big by something or born 2023 this year, I have 3. It's not a lot, but I remember this 3 times now. So, hello everyone, Shy here, and today we're coming around infamous videos for the month of Dawn back last year. I wanted to make a this back then, but not only credibly countless channels know this and that man over there, but quite frankly, I didn't know how to handle this. But now that I can restart, I can speak on this. And before anyone asks, I'm well aware that we will cover this. Mr. Jose in particular, which I will invite links to all that are really good, but I will to other partners until the end of this conversation. Speaking of, Mr. Campbell is alright, if you will.
So, remember when I said that the pre-video disclaimer wasn't going to be the worst of her comprehensibility issues? This is where that bit of foreshadowing comes in. While I can vaguely understand what's being said, she still suffers from the same issues from earlier, but somehow worse in ways that I'm not even sure how they occurred. Some simple fixes would be to slow down a bit and enunciate your words. It'll be much easier to understand what you are saying, especially with a voice filter. Viewers familiar with the co-op I did with Kagura would know this was a similar talking point during it, except I'd argue that at least with the Unleashed video, the subtitles made it at least easier to understand what she was saying with the robotic voice filter, even if they were occasionally inconsistent with what she actually said. Here, however, there are no subtitles to be seen, making it difficult to figure out if she meant Josine or if she really did write down Mr. Joyzy. It was the latter, by the way.
Hello, my name is Ephraim Joyzy.
Anyways, I'll be adding subtitles to the rest of Shy's parts in this video, because I'd rather not have you all deal with more incomprehensibility.
So for context, around 15 years ago now, IGN made a review of Sonic the Black Knight. Fast forward to the end of 2022, and a user by the name of Sonic King would eventually cover that video. In January of 2023, ex-commentator Keyblade Master, who we'll be referring to as Batman, would cover that video, but the ending portion, he would make a potshot taking a jab at a big wording of Sonic King's, basically labeling the 4 people as harassers. One of the 4 by the name of X-Threads would address the potshot, which would then be covered in a trial between Turn of the TV, commonly known as River, Kagura 101, and Batman himself.
Now, bear in mind that this was before the Cloak and Dagger situation back in August, so unless needed, we won't be using that as an argument due to it being unfair to argue against a video's last situation that wasn't public knowledge.
However, it does be a bad image of that man, and well. Okay, I'm kind of losing my mind, but you call him that for the videos, or instead, I'm gonna call something else. Oh, well, Makoto.
Who? Oh.
Nah, probably not.
Okay, what do you suggest then?
Have you seen Sword Art Online?
I think I know where this is going.
It's been years since I've heard that name. Why?
Considering he's known as an anime protagonist, wouldn't it be more fitting to call him someone who a lot of people hate? Like, Kirito?
Huh, that's not a bad idea, Mr. Campbell. I love it. Here's how it is. With that said, there's one more thing we have to discuss before anything else. I'll let 3 people in this video, 2 of this only apologize for the actions that don't sound it anymore. I bring this up because while we will talk about all the bad points, I want anyone to hold this into the Kagura and the CV as if he apologized. They did the wrongdoings and didn't encourage me to cover this.
In fact, Kirito here was very adamant about trying to keep the video up, pretty much saying he saw nothing wrong with it. That says a lot, to be honest.
Some main criticism on the other 2 is only if we're fine and bizarre fucking today. As for Hanover, I'll leave that to your imagination. Anyways, why scary war must be interested since it's been nothing to do it for you out.
Actually, Shy, I have something to say in regards to the skit, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay, by all means.
Everyone, let Ari cook.
If I had a nickel for every time there was a repeat talking point for my co-op with Kagura, I'd have 2 nickels. Which is not a lot, I would admit, but why, oh why, must the context be over 3 minutes in length? I would have understood if there was a lot that needed to be said, but most of this was needless fluff that could have been cut to make everything flow better. For example, Ari brings up how the video they're covering predated Cloak and Dagger, even though the only reason that would even be tangentially related is due to the involvement of Keyblade Master. The fact of the matter is that you shouldn't need to bring up that situation at all for any argument, seeing as it is almost completely disconnected from what you are covering. Another particular example is when they attempt a skit within the middle of their context. Now I for one do enjoy myself some good banter, but the important part is that it needs to be good. For one, this should have been placed at the end like what TV, Kagura, and Key did for their try-up.
So to fill in those who skipped the intro skit, the person we're covering is named X-Freds, who is primarily known for being someone who tends to cover TonySonic a lot, which is important since they're responding to my video on Sonic King, specifically the ending portion for stuff you'll figure out really soon. Needless to say, we all took issue with it, so with everything said and done, let's dive in.
Wait, before we do that, Key, I want you to do me a favor. If I ever become a vindictive asshole again, I want you to slap me in the face.
I feel like that's something I should be saying to you.
The real vindictive assholes were the friends we made along the way.
On that topic, your skit should have been much shorter, around 15 or so seconds at most. That way it doesn't drag out like yours does. Here, I'll show you. We can't keep calling him that man. It's far too intimidating for someone who could easily be shoved into a locker. Any suggestions? What about Makoto?
No, that will remind me too much of war crimes. Why not Kirito instead?
Kirito it is. See? That at least felt less dragged out.
Stop right there, criminal scum! I'm not letting you commit another war crime on my watch!
Wait, what war crime did I commit last time?
Remember your last co-op?
Oh, okay. In my defense, it was the first co-op I scripted before my co-op at Ephraim became my first official co-op.
Is this what a heart attack feels like?
No, there's usually 3 DeLoreans that fall from the sky, but the point here is Kagura has lost their co-op privileges. So in order to make sure this commentary doesn't repeat the mistakes of the past, I took it upon myself to time travel here and turn this co-op into a tryout to make it good.
And here we experience one of the most poorly aged statements in the history of the slideshow commentary community. Listen, I must right the wrongs of the past. Allow me to have this one.
Okay. I get it's supposed to be a bit of sort in the skit, but can we not Just because a group of people made, to my knowledge at least, one bad co-op, doesn't mean that they shouldn't make another co-op again without some a third party, to get involved. Like, dude, let people make, learn, and improve upon their mistakes. Okay? Okay.
Now, credit credit is due, the intro skit was funny until he came in. That's the main point. Ignoring how this age poorly given what happens later, his character's been dead to the very nicely. But if I drop out, is fine, but there's such a better you three will be seeking throughout the video. Pull across that bridge when we get there.
Apparently, Kagura wrote this down himself, and admittedly, I will say this. Not liking a certain video of yours, that's fine. And I also understand self-deprecation. But this crashes down so hard when Kirito follows it up with you losing your privileges. Not exactly the best form of therapy, especially if a video is going to be weaponized against you.
I don't think Ari should be allowed to cook ever again. She set the whole place on fire while trying to make Kraft macaroni and cheese! How does one even do that? In all seriousness, I understand the sentiment of disliking this particular segment of the intro skit because of the way Ki and Kagura went about it. However, was it necessary for you to act all condescending about it? It was a poorly handled self-deprecation joke at most, and yet it comes off as you taking it far too seriously rather than criticizing the point of the joke. Seriously, when was therapy ever brought up within that part of the skit? Maybe if you gave actual advice for how the joke could have been handled better, I wouldn't mind as much. But instead, you hammer in Keyblade Master bad for this entire interjection, and it's just upsetting, to say the least.
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how well it's gonna work.
You didn't let me finish!
Now, what's the video we're covering?
X-Fred's video name.
Okay, scratch that. Kagura's not gonna be the vindictive asshole in this situation.
Key, you already said that.
Let me finish. Kagura's not gonna be the asshole, cause I am.
Please keep this point in mind, this will come back into play later, as spoiler alert, this will be a recurring theme throughout this video.
Also, no one should be vindictive assholes. They're stinky.
Like, I already had an interest in his video with Tresor here, basically defending himself how it does matter, but this right here, nothing matters.
Look, I understand that in hindsight, Keyblade certainly was an individual, to put it in the nicest terms I can, but claiming that you were already hesitant in trusting this video because of Key defending himself in a tasteless manner, when we haven't even gone to his arguments yet, is what we in the industry call poisoning the well, because all this serves to do is set your audience up to disregard whatever points are made by him right out the gate.
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how well it's gonna work.
You didn't let me finish! And yes, I mean it. I crossed the line very, 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 very hard.
Dude, there are children present. Keep that shit away from them.
Would somebody please think of the children?
But are we all adults?
I'm 22.
Oh. Fuck.
Okay, let's back it up. Now then, I don't really have anything against out-of-context jokes, but it is a problem because the joke is being aimed at a minor. Please be careful next time.
Especially considering this is during a serious video debunking a serious allegation against you. Levity does exist, I grant you, but not during a video that's supposed to be taken seriously, and especially not in the tasteless way you presented it here.
Madame, this is an Arby's. If you don't order something within 1 minute, I will have to ask you to leave.
It is I, Simon Quest, from hit video game The Transylvania Adventure of Simon Quest, and I'm here to slay Dracula.
I don't have any idea what a Simon's Quest is, although I assume it has something to do with the Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest on the NES.
If you both don't leave within 1 minute, I will hit you with this stick I found. Alright. Enough horsing around for one interjection. I very much agree with the sentiment that you shouldn't make sexual jokes at a minor's expense. However, not only were Kagura never not aware of how old X-Heads was at the time, which is something you guys should have asked about beforehand, but there's also a high chance X-Fred just never stated how old he was or if he was a minor publicly. Yes, the joke should have been shelved as a safety precaution if the three weren't sure how old he was. However, if his age wasn't public, how were the three supposed to even know in the first place? What I don't particularly agree with is the sentiment Ari tacks on at the end. Not only are we not at the point where anything remotely serious is being discussed in the try-up, since the closest thing to a serious point prior to this was about X-Fred's grammar, and has otherwise been mostly horseplay from the three.
However,
The end of the video is where I officially crossed the line.
Oh, thank goodness you specified you're the one crossing the line. You had me worried that I was going to cross the line, since there's no way I'm declaring war on Five Nights at Freddy's.
Wait, I didn't know we were playing tic-tac-toe.
It was like Bill Tone tells us that tic-tac-toe sucks ass.
Just like this video.
Oh, and by the way, your grammar in this is a shit show. I was sponsored by the name of Keyblade Master. Like, I get this whole thing straight when you're not scripting. However, reading in grammar like this really shows unprofessionalism on your end, especially when they can be fixed by retakes.
But I also don't think you three have any room to speak considering your attempt at banter during the context. The tastelessness wasn't even because of the how it was delivered, it was because of the who it was delivered at. Trying to frame it like that does an utter disservice to Campbell's point rather than complimenting it. As a heads up, I shall be skipping quite far ahead in the video. Not because I agree with what I'm skipping over, but rather because I'd rather not cover so much of this video's contents. I mean, unless you all wish to experience more of what amounts to.
Hello, it is me, Shy96. I am going to make point. Now that I have made point, I am going to let my partners make more point while I... This is stupid. Can we get food instead?
Already on it. What would you like?
Pasta sounds good right about...
The Vampire Tresor here.
That being said, I will play the context for what caused the rest of this chain here, since it is rather important to the arguments going forward.
Though I will give IGN credit for this. Unlike a certain someone I know, they aren't trying to make a living off of harassing someone.
Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
Now, let us proceed.
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how well it's gonna work.
You didn't let me finish! DS, although his TonySonic videos are his most popular, he doesn't hate TonySonic as a person. He only hates his content. Another difference that you should get out is there's a difference between hating a person and hating content. How do you not get this?
Oh boy, Destroyer Shy. Who wants to take the mantle for this one? Cause boy, you're in for a wild ride.
Not me. I'll just address this actual argument at hand. Well, TV will do the honor. You see that there's a difference between hating a person and hating their content, but couldn't it be argued that that is irrelevant? Because repeated targeting of someone's videos is still harassment, whether you like to admit it or not. Like, could that not be the case here? I don't need to hit F1 to cover his entire library because that would be considered harassment. So going, how do you not get this? When the argument you made was irrelevant, comes off as condescending. That said, TV, do the honor.
The story Shy claimed TonySonic is a manipulator, among other names, was passive-aggressive towards TonySonic as a means of stirring shit. TonySonic blocked him due to how often he did videos on him, which is funny considering you claimed TS was harassing Shari for the same thing.
Okay, this might just be a me thing, but the way the degree 4 marker looks here specifically bugs the hell out of me. It just looks so awkward compared to how it was just prior. From what Campbell has told me, he never sent the entirety of the final part of the video he edited, only the upcoming interjection, which likely resulted in what we see here. Frankly, I think Shy should have been more transparent about this and just admit she lacked one particular part that Campbell edited, rather than poorly mask the fact she didn't.
Hey, User1 Campbell, the editor here, with a clarification post point. So, while I was writing this post point here, I went back to Shy's version of a trial and saw something interesting. So, I may have actually been wrong on what I said about not sending part 3 of a trial editing the group DM. I initially thought that because when we were watching the trial for the very first time when Shy premiered it, I caught on to the fact that she did not include the third part of the video project in her video, which, if you guys don't know, is this time frame of my archive. So at the time, I was confused as to why she did not include that in her video. So I basically put 2 and 2 together and thought initially that I didn't put part 3 in the group DM back when Ari and I were involved in the development progression of the trial. I remember most of the video files that were in the group DM, but some of it I didn't remember if I did or not. So it was a bit of a hazy moment with my memory on my end. I say all this because I found out that in between after the Paradox Philosopher points and the moment where it cuts to this particular portion of River's trial where Shy decided to make a skip card or some shit. I don't fucking know, dude. Besides as illegible as a tax form.
Simply put, stop simplifying the situation and actually argue the point in question.
DS, although his TonySonic videos are his most popular.
This played for literally a goddamn millisecond, so not only was it easy as all hell to miss, but I saw that the number 4 degree number looks normal here. So this has me scratching my head on this. Did Shy actually have part 3 of the video project files? Did I actually send it to the group DM? Because let's say if she did have the file, why didn't she include it in her version? Also, like I said before, that sign is harder to read than Nightwing not getting his ass kicked in the New 52 movies. This isn't the last time this happens, and Kami will go over that more much later. I pray for your soul, dear vampire. But for now, I want to touch on the wording of the text here. Specifically, the very beginning was not communicated all that well. It says skipped over, then immediately afterwards goes to the time frame. Kami and I were confused at first because the Paradox Philosopher point we ended on was at 8:38 of River's original video. But then we saw that Shy actually meant to write down skip to 1445 to 1558, aka the time frame that the X-Reg Triops interjection section started and right before River brings up Tony blocking Shy. Okay, interjection section sounds like a fucking rap album. So, I'm sorry, Kami, for taking up a lot of time for this all because of the number 4 degree marker of all things. Guinness World Record for weirdest context for interjection ever? Probably. Anyways, I'll shut the fuck up and get back to being enslaved. Get back to working.
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how well it's gonna work.
You motherfucker, you didn't let me finish! Oh, brother, there's actually a lot to unpack here. So, not only do you guys not show evidence of Shy doing any of the things you claim, but notice how the only evidence you guys showed is a community post that does not say it was due to harassment, nor the amount of videos she made on him. If we read what is shown here, the reason why TonySonic blocked her is due to Shy claiming Tony was harassing Chari 5, which given how many videos he's done, it's not a hard stretch to put 2 and 2 together. And while we're on the subject, Kirito, if we're to believe you knew nothing, 1, how did you randomly guess 4 specific people that were covering TonySonic, especially since most of them weren't super relevant or out there, meaning it's less likely to know about them without some knowledge given they weren't talked about until after the fact. 2, how did you come to the conclusion that their videos are harassment? Spoiler alert, this will come back to bite him in the ass later. 3, I mentioned this earlier to remember a slight remark towards TonySonic. Well, here's the memorable questions. How did you find out about the anti-TonySonic community, which, mind you, doesn't exist and is poisoning the well even further? There are many questions that you refuse to answer, and neither of us believe for a second you didn't know about the harassment, given the evidence presented right in front of you that Shy was being harassed, and said evidence was available before you're a little shocked. Considering River Kagura and even Tony themselves confirm this fact makes this, what, the 3rd lie you've spewed now? Now, Shy is still in the wrong to say this the way they did, but River, you saying they harassed Tony with no evidence and unconsciously lying about it makes it look worse. As someone who's friends with Tony, I can confirm that this isn't the case. As for...
You're correct. There is a lot to unpack here. For starters, you can still say something without directly saying it through implication. For example, the phrase putting up with could imply that Shy's accusations were a constant thing at the time, and combined with how Tony already says, I can handle criticism, but I can't handle you, could give the impression that she crossed the line at best. Now, could this interpretation be wrong? Perhaps, but Campbell only using what is literally said while not thinking about how one could come to that conclusion simply doesn't work to debunk TV's statement. And now, for the real monster to unpack. Firstly, this entire argument is built upon a straw man, considering that nowhere in the video does he say he knew nothing about the situation. All he said was that he didn't know about the alleged harassment that was going on towards 3 out of the 4 people he mentioned.
Also, what's the point of bringing up how you guys were harassed by TonySonic's fans when I would have had no knowledge of this? Given how obscure the events you're talking about are to an outsider. So really, there's no sort of correlation between my joke and you guys getting harassed by TonySonic's fan base.
Secondly, it wasn't strictly the coverage of TonySonic he was alluding to within his potshot. The Birdman hasn't talked about Tony to my knowledge, instead being better known for his coverage of CinemaSins using their format. And while Shadowruff has covered Tony, the 2 videos on him pale in comparison to the 42 videos he did on Ace Train and Liam, which could very well be what Kay may have taken aim at in particular. Thirdly, the original point of the potshot was to poke fun at Sonic King's vague wording. Key certainly does heavily imply that the 4 people brought up were harassers. That doesn't mean he called the videos themselves harassment. Do I need to repeat my point about straw men? Back on the original topic, the videos themselves could be very constructive with how they are presented, but the people who make them could engage in harassment outside of them. Fourthly, how did you find out about the anti-TonySonic community? Through stumbling across their content while scrolling YouTube, through seeing their videos posted in chats he's in. You're acting as if there's some big conspiracy involving Keyblade Master of all people, making a potshot at certain individuals, when the answer is so much simpler than you're letting on. Fifthly, what exactly was Shy wrong about? Her claims about Tony being a harasser? You specifically say the way she said whatever she did was wrong, But that doesn't clear anything up. For all we know, whatever you are referring to could be something completely unrelated to the discussion at hand. And finally, what did any of this tirade have to do with what was said in this interjection? I'm being genuine when I say this. I cannot think of any way this interacts with either of the points made here. This honestly feels like it should have been placed earlier in the video rather than haphazardly tucked on at the beginning of this interjection in hopes to obtain the record for longest single interjection. Because let me tell you, we've only just begun digging into this over 12 minutes long interjection. Get your favorite drinks and snacks, because we have many more sights to see on this journey.
Ow! Where am I?
Why do things always keep falling onto me? Wait, Tony? What are you doing here?
Good question. I was sitting on my comfy couch playing Rechain of Memories, but then suddenly I ended up here.
I see. So if you didn't come here willingly and neither of us did it, who—
Are you not going to let Ari speak for herself on the matter? That's not particularly gentlemanly of you, Campbell. What's next? Am I going to see you driving around with a license plate that says Dude Bro on it?
It's my doing. I apologize for this, but I require assistance if that's okay.
Sure. Wait, you look drastically different than the last time I saw you.
It's a long story. I don't have time to get into it right now, but to summarize, I have a few questions for you, and I need answers for them. I only want the truth. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Ask away.
Question 1. Did anyone in this chain harass you?
Nope.
Question 2. What was the original reason for the block?
It was because you claimed I was harassing Char 5, which, looking back, I can see how it looked.
Last question. Was this false in regards to that block before or after the first video drops?
Before. I made that post back in September of 2022, roughly a few weeks before the Unleashed video was posted.
I appreciate your time to answer my questions. I do apologize for popping you into out of nowhere.
It's fine. Hopefully this will help get rid of the allegations put onto you. Then again, considering people are trying to dig up the hatchet after we buried it a year ago, maybe not.
One can only hope. Anyways, let me get this in. Daniel?
Before I dive into that first question, can I point out how the second question of this makes Campbell's first point in this interjection completely redundant? Why was it even there if Tony was just going to clarify the exact same thing anyways? You could have cut that out and moved his second point somewhere would be more relevant, and nothing of value would have been lost. And now, let us get into some truly dirty waters. It is correct that nobody in the chain up to this point harassed Tony, but why is that the specific question you asked him? Why not ask him if he was harassed during the situation in general? Clearly, it couldn't be because Shy did something that could fall under the harassment umbrella that she wants to avoid addressing if at all possible. Editor, play the clip.
And like I said earlier in the video, if you do what I think you're gonna do in your Undertale video, trust me, I will put your ass on blast so hard, you won't know what hits you. And I will leak all the messages about what you did in Discord too. So don't think I won't. And even if somehow something happens to me, I have several other people who have my information too. So in the event something happens to this video, or to me personally, they have my permission to upload this video and upload every single thing you've done there.
No, I don't care that the logs turned out to be faked. That makes the threats even worse, considering Tony could have potentially been cancelled over false information had they been leaked. But more to the point, this would absolutely fall under harassment, considering it creates a very hostile and unpleasant situation, along with being an intimidation tactic. Now, I am more than aware of what Shy's retort to this would be, considering she used it when Kagura brought this up. That Tony didn't see it as harassment, therefore it doesn't count. This is ridiculous for several different reasons that I hopefully don't have to explain, but considering even Tony himself admits that he only realized in hindsight what people thought his coverage of Chari was harassment, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a similar instance. And another, if arguably minor thing, the artist of these stills for Tony, Jack Soroth, wasn't credited anywhere. Not in the video itself, nor in the description. I get you originally wanted to keep Tony's cameos part of your interview with that Jack a secret, but there was nothing stopping you from adding a TonySonic stills made by Jack Lockstyle when you updated the description to credit Tony as a cameo.
But Kami, aren't you forgetting the third question? How can you call yourself a—
I'll get to it in a second. I've been here long enough as is, and as per the cycle of this commentary thus far, Shy's going to bring up the time frame again, and what I wish to argue will be more relevant then.
But would it not be easier to—
Didn't I tell you both to leave? Was the stick not enough of a threat? Must I resort to less comical means?
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how well it's gonna work.
You didn't let me finish!
But to address what we've ever said, Tony's supposed to be in September 2022. The first video ever talking about him was supposed to US actor, so not only wrong about the reason he said block, but you didn't even confirm why that was the case. He aligned his video chat April 23rd, 2023. Now, she is right that he was deadly harasser. That part is true. However, as Mr. Dwight pointed out, that claim was made as passive aggressive, but more as a statement which was unfortunately true. So, due to lack of evidence, your statement will be dismissed.
Remember what I said at the end of the previous interjection? This is where I'll finally address that third question. Are you ready? This is barely relevant to the conversation. Woohoo! TV got one detail incorrect about why Tony blocked you. But that's so insignificant in the grand scheme of things, especially given she was still correct about you getting blocked by him. Speaking of getting details wrong, let's talk about those screenshots you show on screen. Did you not think for 1 second during the scripting process to make sure your time of events was correct before writing everything down? Or even make sure your questions were clear before asking them if this was a case of miscommunication? I get that checking dates on both posts and removed videos is sketchy at best, but if you're aiming to defend yourself from serious accusations, you need to make absolutely sure you're on your A game and not your D game. On that note, Tony mentions in these screenshots that he wasn't harassed until the SA2 video, which directly contradicts his answer to the first question. To clarify some behind-the-scenes knowledge that Campbell gave me, Tony was asked each question, then Shy wrote down the answers. To make this crystal clear, I don't blame Tony for any of this. Tony was just answering the questions Shy gave him. Nothing more, nothing less. Now that all of that is out of the way, let's get back to the point at hand. Once again, we have another straw man. TV never called your claim about Tony being a harasser passive-aggressive. Those were two separate claims she made. Finally, due to a lack of evidence, your statement will be dismissed. Well, let's see what your own evidence has been thus far. Campbell claiming that because Tony didn't directly say block Shy due to him getting harassed by her, that meant it couldn't have been because of that. And Tony saying he wasn't harassed as an answer to one of the most blatant leading questions ever, which was even contradicted by a screenshot you yourself show. Are you sure you're not the one with a dismissible claim here?
After the video of Mr. Story and Mr. Toy worked together was on March 12th of the same year. Note that both parties have since made up, and during 2023 it was public knowledge, meaning you three had one time that Burbanks pleaded but chosen not to. For context, they started making the video in January, so they had 3 months to confirm these points. I know we're going to get onto if this is a case of a no commentary, but again, these are serious claims you are making in a serious video discussing harassment. And I want to send the answer of if the pizza covers my commentary for this very reason. This is a comment that fans people for some reason like to make, even though it causes more misinformation which could avoid people talk to each other.
I don't wish to ask another question about relevance. I truly don't. But how is your cop with Tony even relevant to the argument at hand? The only thing this does is say that it happened at all, because I can't for the life of me think of a way this makes any sort of sense to bring up otherwise. If this was an attempt to prove that you both made up, then that doesn't work because purely at face value, the fact you collaborated with Tony could mean literally anything. That's also not getting to the fact that the people in the tryout couldn't have known during scripting, considering even by your own admission they started production in January, far before you and Tony did your co-op together. Oh, and about those serious claims TV made, she had most called you a shitster and a hypocrite. Those are not nearly as serious as you make them out to be. Yes, she should have shown more evidence. I think that's been made clear as crystal at this point. By the way, do you know what makes Shy's spiel here completely superfluous? TV wasn't finished with her point. In fact, she says the following afterwards.
Now, I'll fully acknowledge that none of this is indicative of who he is now, which is fair. A lot has changed by the time that this project was in the scripting phase. I still bring this up though because at the time all these things I've stated did happen, and really shouldn't be brushed aside in the context of what you're arguing.
Do you want to know something else? Shy completely skips over it and doesn't even acknowledge that TV addresses the fact that things did change after the script was written. This comes off as awfully suspicious on your part and almost makes it seem like you're deliberately trying to make TV look worse than she really is. First the strawman, then the cut additional context. The next thing you're going to tell me is that a ghost wrote most this script.
Oh yeah, about those claims saying that Destroyer accused Tony of being a manipulator, stirring up matters and so on. It turns out when we were in VC watching the video, TV told us she got that info from Kirito during their scripting phase with zero physical evidence to back up this claim. Like, I get it. He was your friend, and most of us want to believe whatever our peeps tell us, especially if we trusted them that much. But it would be a good idea to double check on whatever information they give you, as, at best, they could be misinformed. At worst, they could be making assumptions. And say it with me, makes an ass out of you. But that implies this held any weight to begin with.
This is funny in ways past Ari does not understand. So, do you all remember when Shy and Campbell were getting onto TV's case for lacking evidence? I do, because that's their one valid argument thus far in this interjection. Apparently, however, Ari did not get the memo and proceed to make a claim with no evidence herself. Now, I can confirm this was indeed something that did happen, given I asked TV directly in DMs. However, as the presenter, you should be the one providing the evidence rather than directly going against your partner's own points.
Actually, let's pretend for a moment that Shy did do those things you claimed. Let's pretend that everything you said was true and Shy is lying to us. So riddle me this, Kirito. You explicitly stated earlier in the video that you did not know anything.
Also, what's the point of bringing up how you guys were harassed by TonySonic's fans when I would have had no knowledge of this? Given how obscure the events you're talking about are to an outsider. So really, there's no sort of correlation between my joke and you guys getting harassed by TonySonic's fan base.
Wow, folks, you've seen it here first. A straw man killed by the clip Campbell himself played in order to prove that Keyblade definitely said what he claimed was said. I don't even care about whatever the rest of his argument is. This is way too funny in all of the unintended ways.
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how well it's gonna work.
You didn't let me finish!
Also, since we're talking about videos here, let's do a little math. With some assistance from the calculator on my part. I'm bad at math. Let's see. TonySonic did 43 videos on Cherry 5 during that time. Only 42 are public since he deleted one of them. So if we round that up, that's about 3 to 4 videos a month, and that's not even getting into any jabs, insults, and so on, which were rapid in his videos, especially his earlier ones.
Do you all remember earlier, when I got onto Audie's case for making a claim without evidence after her partners got onto the original video's case for lacking evidence for their claims? Well, this isn't quite that argument again. See, the version Campbell edited actually provided evidence for Audie's claim here.
Oh, speaking of, I've seen your video on Charlie's No More Heroes theory, and that had an uneven amount of vitriol for somebody who just got things wrong while talking about video games. I already showed the fourth wall viewer example, but I assure you that was far from the only one. So you decided to do No More Heroes. Look, I get it. The third game coming out next month, and you attack like that. That's not at all. How do you feel so hard at the 101? You want to touch No More Heroes? In order to be the best, you have to fight the best. That's practically the rule of life. And to be mean shows us how dumb you really are. Besides, if you want to have an easier time with the game's rising difficulty, you need to go in unless you want to challenge yourself, in which case just play the game on better mode, or you're stupid. And given how this video is going, in your case, I'm pretty sure it's the latter. Also, I can't be the only one who knows that you've been an ass for literally everyone in this game. I know these are fictional characters, but you still call them small things. Now I know what some of you were going to say. Well, Tony's like, you think you're Charlie as well. Yeah, but only when something so painfully obvious that you have to have an IQ more than only the dog did not understand. It's okay for me to insult you because you insult fictional characters and you're stupid. Yeah, I don't buy your disclaimer about how you don't hate Charlie.
Simply put, Campbell inserted said evidence after Cogger told the members of the triop that they should show a clip of Tony's jabs and insults. He simply forgot to upload his updated version to the group DM, and thus Shy would not have access to it, resulting in what happened here. I personally believe he should have cut down the clip to just the parts showcasing the aforementioned jabs and insults, seeing as Luxor's lines only serve to drag the clip out for much longer than need be, even with it being sped up, but I digress. Oh, and while I'm still here, let's talk about that attempt at math Ari did. 41 or 42 divided by 20 does not equal numbers that round up to 3 or even 4. Here's a math lesson for everyone watching. You round up if the decimal number is 5/10 or above, and you round down if it's below that. So a more accurate average would be 2 videos per month, which actually does line up with the time frame Tony released those videos.
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how well it's gonna work.
You didn't let me finish!
Now, if we look at Destroyer Shy's videos, they uploaded 1 video a month and made 4 videos on him. More specifically, 1 in September, October, November, and then January. And that came out after Kirito's video, so really, 3 videos. Note, Unleashed was completely removed, but they did confirm that it was in September due to it coming out roughly a few weeks after Tony's video on Unleashed.
You know, I think it's rather interesting that you only bring up the time frame of when Shy released her videos and not bring up the content within said videos, while you brought up both with regards to Tony. I wonder what that may lead to later. Also, considering the fact Shy started her coverage way later than Tony started his, late 2022 in comparison to early to mid 2021, this isn't exactly the most fair of comparisons here.
Now, I know some of you are thinking, but doesn't that prove Destroyer was harassing Tony? But ignoring how Tony has outright dismissed that claim already, let's go further into it. You see, from all 4 of the videos, aside from the SA2 video, which is a little complicated to get into due to behind-the-scenes stuff, won't be holding against them. The first video, you could potentially make an argument against it, but as they have disowned it, it being their first commentary, along with the fact Tony has again said he didn't consider it harassment, I don't feel it's fair to really consider it as such. The second video was a joke, and more or less not meant to be taken seriously. The third one is actually reasonable, as while the video has its flaws, is an improvement over the first one. Aside from the fourth one, most of the jabs made are there as humor. In short, this isn't the smoking gun that you think it is.
Alright, let's break this particular defense down one by one, in the order of when each video was released, of course. Firstly, speaking as someone who covered the Sonic Unleashed video, that featured Shy being addicted to Tony over the pettiest of things. This ranges from unproven claims of stolen jokes.
Make a dick joke, but, well, the screen speaks for itself.
Chari says boner.
Okay, if you're gonna keep stealing jokes, at least use them correctly. He said dick, not boner. Yes, I get it was similar, but you're still using the joke incorrectly. And you know it's way too damn often for you not to apply 3 sins.
Getting angry at Tony for using newer cliches on an old video without explaining why that could be an issue.
What? Well, that was kind of a delayed reaction.
Chari points out things on the screen cliche.
Says that comes to the damn kettle. Also, listen to me, let's not bring this up. Stop using cliches for an old video! It's a scummy move and it's easy to have your videos. Since it's time to sell more times, I'm applying 26 moving on.
And generally getting things wrong.
Yes, thank you, Sonic.
So a voice actor can't play 2 different characters? This happens all the time.
Tony, that's not the point of me talking about it. It's the fact that it sounds so you can easily mistake it for his. Especially since, you know, he's in the game. I would say it's just in context, but I'm gonna forgive this one because it's easy to say it. Just know you're on very thin ice.
Hell, it's even got to the point of her claiming Tony called her a pedo when he never did.
Sorry for the side Russia, but I'm glad I cleared up something that I didn't realize while finishing the script. Someone DM'd me regarding the whole pedo thing. Apparently I was wrong, but not by a reason you think. At my request, I asked them to double check the allegations and make sure they were true. They got back to me within a day and deconfirmed my point. He only called Charlie a pedo twice as I third time as I stated before. So congrats, Tony. I was wrong about something. Is what I would have said until the next day. Then this little gem happens. So I'm a pedophile now for calling out your bullshit?
Actually, let's take a look at the screenshot you provided. You claim that Tony called you a pedo, but that's not actually the case. He said that you would enable the sexualization for kids, and believe it or not, there's a difference.
The fact is disowned in Shy's first commentary doesn't matter, considering she still portrayed herself in a toxic and vindictive manner, even if she doesn't stand behind it. This isn't exactly something you can sweep under the rug that easily. Secondly, as someone who hasn't seen the Smash 4 video, what exactly makes it purely a joke? Are the sins purposefully nonsensical? Are they presented in a humorous manner? Was it a bait and switch sort of situation? Without any elaboration on your part, I can't exactly take your word for it. But if you are right that it was a joke video, there still could have been points behind the jokes made. As an example of what I mean, the plot shot the 3 of you have been arguing against this whole time. Thirdly, just because the Forces video was allegedly an improvement over the Unleashed video, doesn't mean it was good or that it didn't have similar issues. In fact, within the intro skit of that video, Shy makes a direct jab at Tony just for releasing a new Everything Wrong with Chari video.
What do you mean TonySonic released another ill video? Fine, fuck it. I'll watch it and leave a response. Well, there goes my 40 minutes of a shit show.
So, you know, give or take on that. Fourthly and finally, what exactly do you mean by complicated to get into because of behind the scenes stuff? Did something happen that caused Shy to threaten Tony with blackmail? Whatever additional context there is could help give the audience a better understanding of why it would be a complicated situation. Also, most of the jabs were made in humor. Right.
This is how I felt when I got to this point of the video. And let me remind everyone, this shit is 43 minutes. 43! And I think this man-child complained over and over again about stupid shit that happened 7 years ago. And you know what? I don't have a problem with this if he was actually mature and took this with more grace. But not only does he spend time bitching about stupid shit, but he wants to waste everyone's time repeating the same sins over and over again. And let me remind everyone, he said in his video he did not like repeating himself, yet he does it here. This video could easily be 20 minutes, and sure, it would still be a man-child crying for 20 minutes, but that's a hell of a lot better than 3 minutes, for God's sake. To me, a long goddamn short point of it is, if you do not have a problem with this, or if you do not have a reasonable sin to actually give, then don't waste our time complaining about this. All it does is waste everyone's time, and wastes my time. Time that you do a lot of, by the way. Let's just continue the fucking video before I go critically insane.
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how
You
well it's gonna work.
motherfucker, you didn't let me finish!
I hope you kept your receipt because there's nuance to this. And hammering it on someone who is arguably not as bad without giving the full context shows a gross bias on your end. If you're going to do this, you have to get onto Tony as well. Simply put, if you're going to make claims like this, it's your responsibility to tackle all sides. Reach out and prove these claims to be true, and not go on the word of mouth of someone who's been shown to be untrustworthy. Yes, again, he was your friend, and I understand that perfectly given my own personal experiences. But this whole chain nearly cost several people their YouTube careers, caused someone to be unjustifiably hated, and nearly caused a life. To be blunt, this was a massive fumble that could have been prevented. I want to stress, despite my tone, I know you're not fully to blame here. However, that doesn't mean you can't be criticized either. We all make mistakes, and it's very important to learn and own up to them in order to get better.
This is it. This is the literal worst point in this entire interjection. Dear Lord. This not only repeats stuff that was already said, which only serves to drag this over 12-minute interjection out way more than it needs to, but it also preaches to the choir while not even practicing what is preached at all. I swear, this embodies everything that makes this interjection the worst part of this entire video. The repetitiveness of the arguments made, the constant inconsistencies, you name it. I don't inherently have a problem with lengthy interjections. If I did, I wouldn't have had some of my points be as long as they have been. However, there needs to be an actual purpose for them, such as elaboration and thorough analysis. This doesn't have any of that in the slightest. It's just length for the sake of it. Hell, you don't even bother addressing Cogger's point at all. Remember his point?
You see that there's a difference between hating a person and hating their content, but couldn't it be argued that that is irrelevant? Because repeated targeting of someone's videos is still harassment whether you like to admit it or not. Like, could that not be the case here? I don't need to hit Ephraim to cover his entire library because that will be considered harassment. So going, how do you not get this? When the argument you made was irrelevant comes off as condescending.
Maybe you were addressing it when you went over Tony and Shy's outputs, but you don't even address him by name there. Which is weird, but that's the least of my worries at the moment. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Are you really out here blaming TV for a suicide attempt? This is gross as hell for several different reasons. This is unbecoming of not just a commentator, but also someone who makes video content in general. And the fact you, of all people, didn't think of this speaks volumes. TV already regretted being part of the video in question, and had already apologized for making the video in the first place. Something that was already addressed in the context for this video. She doesn't need this on top of that. You should know better than to make this type of point. Shy. Yes, I've been addressing you this whole time. Did you think I wouldn't notice or find out? For context, Ari already wrote down her point, but Shy chose to sneak that gross nugget in when neither of her partners were looking. In fact, she ghost wrote most of the points in this tri-op. I wouldn't necessarily mind if this was for quality control purposes, or if this was something she communicated with her co-partners about. The problem is that neither is the case here. I already brought up how the latter wasn't done with that gross nugget, and you've been watching my commentary. You know how I feel about the quality of this tri-op. And do you know what happens next? Take a wild guess. Shy decides to axe both Campbell and Ari from the video right after this ridiculously long interjection.
So, there was supposed to be more for the tri-op, but due to unrelated circumstances, I'll be the only one going forward.
I know the actual reason for why they were axed, but I'll save that for final thoughts.
It's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible, so I don't know how well it's gonna work.
You motherfucker, you didn't let me finish!
Also, can I be honest? Your visual stimulation sucks. Since throughout your entire video, we're presented with a single image of Foxy, without any background whatsoever, and no multiple avatars for Foxy. It will just leave your audience bored to death by the lack of visual stimulation. I recommend getting multiple avatars for Foxy for Fridays at Freddy's, or have a moving background so that it will look interesting. Anything that will make me not want to order yet another McFlurry out of boredom.
Oh dear lord, that sign off in the top left corner. Question: what made you think that white text with a pink glow on a light pink background was anywhere close to easily readable? I genuinely could not tell what that text was saying on my first watch, and spoilers, this problem shows up again later on.
Irrelevant. Yes, if this was any other circumstance, you might have had a point. However, this is a video discussing actual harassment, and this has nothing to do with Expert's argument, so I don't even know what the point of this was other than nitpicking, which, at this point, isn't really necessary.
This is a repeated argument from both way earlier in the commentary and the 12 minutes interjection. It still does not matter, nor debunk anything said. Speaking of debunking, your argument about how Kagura's production point doesn't debunk what was said would at least be understandable if you didn't cut out X-Thread's point by your own admission earlier on. How are we supposed to know how Kagura doesn't debunk X-Thread's point if the latter's point is missing? Hell, what if there was nothing to debunk with what X-Threads was saying, and thus Kagura felt it would be a good opportunity to make a point about the visuals? Speaking of that sign, this point directly contradicts what it said. While we're still on the topic of signs, return of the illegible sign. Twice. You're not the queen of commentaries, you shouldn't be dictating how people should handle their commentaries. Even if visuals don't make the entire video, good visuals can help engage the audience directly watching the video and can be something of note if particularly exceptional. Speaking of visuals, your editing is not good, to put it simply. The constant use of motion blur-based transitions for your stills feels like a poor attempt to hide the fact you don't know how to keyframe properly in your editor. Interjection does not contain a comedy reference. And the sentence is that we move on to final...
Wait, there's something very important about Shy's final thoughts.
Oh, right. For final thoughts, Shy, for whatever reason, decides to randomly bring back Ari and Campbell for their final thoughts. Sort of. While Ari did record her final thoughts and sent them for Campbell to put in, Campbell never sent his voice lines thanks to him originally being the editor. So what was Shy's solution to her self-inflicted conundrum? Read his final thoughts in the slowest, most agonizing way possible.
So, I have a lot to say in these final thoughts because I have 6 to 7 people I have them towards. And starting off, I have some slight mentions about X-Rex's video that I want to bring up, but most of my problems with his video come from many of the production critiques present within his video.
When I asked you to slow down, this was not what I meant! Anyways, now we shall move on to final thoughts. I'll start my final thoughts by addressing Campbell, Ari, and the audience. In terms of writing a good collab, whether a co-op, tri-op, quad-op, or whatever, while having a good flow between members is important, the quality of the points are what make or break a commentary overall. Throughout this video, the points were pushed aside in favor of the balance between the 3 members, and the whole video suffered as a result. What I'm saying is that balancing between your partners is a very important thing, but so is making sure the points themselves are good rather than repetitive and contradictory like what happened here. Additionally, and I cannot stress this enough, it would be best to rein in your biases for and against certain individuals. The members of this tribe went in with a clear and apparent hatred for Keyblade, and it seeped into the way they went about arguing against him in particular. Whether it was strawmanning something he said, poisoning the well with preemptive attacks on his character, or even just taking a joke he made way too seriously. I get it. Key was the worst part of the original video you covered, but there is such a thing as taking things way too far, and this was absolutely the case with how you went about it. In contrast, even when issues with how Shy handled things are brought up, nothing is gone to detail and left within foggy vagueness. If you're going to go in arguing that both sides need to be criticized, it would be best to practice what you preach. While I'm still here, I'll go for Campbell and Ari individually. Campbell is the best part of the video. It admittedly isn't saying a lot considering he got the brunt of the repetitive points, but even with some jank with his editing, it was still miles better than Shy's editing. As for Ari, she was the weakest part of the video. Most of her points were just sort of there, as if she didn't really know what to contribute to the video. I hope you two are able to take this chin up and improve from the mistakes made here. Which is more than I could say for Shy. Remember what I said during the context that I was purposely leaving some details out? When I mentioned I knew the real reason Campbell and Ari were axed from the video after a certain point? Let me tell you all the full story on that. Shy originally began the project as a solo commentary, but then asked if Campbell and Ari wanted to join in to make it a tri-op. Progress went smoothly on that video, with Campbell being up to the over 12-minute interjection before everything came to a screeching halt. For those who haven't seen my final thoughts from a call with Kagura, or Edwin's video about her, I'll give you the abridged version. Shy was exiled from the community on March 31st of last year due to repeated instances of her endangering minors. From there, Campbell and Ari left the project and it was cancelled. Or so we thought, because on June 22nd, we found out about this community post that was posted on the day before. For those with a particular eye for detail, you would recognize that this is from the thumbnail Campbell made for the tri-op. Meaning despite the fact she was told no more commentaries, and the people she was working with cut her off, she still intended to release the video. And then on July 5th, she premiered the video with no regards to what it could do to Campbell and Ari, to River and Kagura, or even TonySonic. Even pretending that Campbell and Ari were still friends with her within the description, which she wrote after the two cut her off. And if I'm to be blunt, this is single-handedly one of the scummiest things I've ever seen with how much disregard she had for everyone's wishes. She had nothing to gain from this, and yet she went through with it. This video was already an utter train wreck in terms of quality, but every single circumstance behind this video's release makes it the worst thing I've ever covered from a morality perspective. Oh, but it wasn't enough for her to release a video not meant to come out, nor was it enough to private it not even an hour after the premiere. This is Shy we're talking about. She always goes above and beyond with digging her own damn grave. She decided to take advantage of the fact her audience wasn't aware of the whole story by crying harassment, which I think is rich coming from her. In case it hasn't been made clear yet, I don't have any form of advice for you, Shy. I already told you to piss off and French within the final thoughts of my call with Kagura, which I know you saw, but apparently didn't even listen to that if this stunt was any indication. Don't you ever dare to pull something like this ever again. In other words, va te fa foutre. With all that being said, this has been the Vampire Kami, signing out.